For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm giving you guys a bit of a review video on a sort of a newish model to the range from Zempire. So this here is the Zempire Pro TC TXL. So there's a few quite a lot of acronyms there really, and let me explain them all. So the Pro, in terms to its Pro range, so it fits in Zempire's top of the range polyester / polycotton tents. TC refers to it being a polycotton material, and then the TXL or TCXL depends, basically refers to the sizing. So they do 3 models in the polycotton range. You've got the TXL, which is this one here, which sleeps up to 8. You then got the TL, which sleeps about 5, and then the TM, which sleeps basically 3 to about 4. So that sort of means you've got TM, TL, TXL, all the same spec, all the same kind of design, just the fact that you're gaining extra space with the larger models. Generally, Zempire is a company you've not heard of them before. They're a New Zealand brand, and their kind of ethos is basically that they don't want to compromise on quality. They want the best and best of everything. So it doesn't matter if necessarily it means that what it kind of costs. They want to make sure that they create the best product they possibly can, which is quite refreshing, and certainly means that, in all honesty, it's not an essentially a sort of cheap product, but it's very premium. You pay a good price for it, but then when you look at the level of detail they go to, you can see why necessarily you are paying a little bit more than maybe other brands just to get that, that last sort of dot on the I, cross the T sort of thing. Generally, they use a really nice polycotton, very breathable. So the joys of polycotton is actually on a warmer weather, the weave will open up and allow air to pass through, so it's a lot cooler on the inside. But then on the colder side of things, it will contract and keep sort of the warmth in. So it reacts to the temperature, which is sort of perfect, certainly for UK weather, or more importantly, if you're going abroad to those hotter climates, that's where it really does come into its own. And you will notice a difference in terms of temperature between a polyester model and a polycotton in the UK. So there is benefits to having polycotton, admittedly being a little bit heavier, being a slight drawback, but also it takes a little bit longer to dry out. But it's a more natural fabric. It makes it look much tauter and easier to pitch, and it's a bit quieter in the wind. You haven't got that sort of synthetic flapping around. Generally, in terms of the USP of sort of Zempire is, like I said, it's down to the nuts and bolts of how it goes together. Things like you've got webbing straps on every point with tensioner as well, so you can get the ultimate of adjustment. On the actual webbing strap as well, you've got a solid metal C-ring, so that means you could really, doesn't matter how much you get wear in it, it's going to still last. Even something down to the detail of, like they say, when you pack it away and the retaining strap to sort of keep it all in a bundle, that's a strong webbing strap with some 2 metal sort of circular rings to really get some tension on it to keep it nice and compact, not sort of let some sort of off-cut of cord to try and keep it all together. So even when it's just talking down to packing weight, comes in a nice roller bag as well, they do really care about that final detail. Things like you've got guideline runners are essentially sort of analysed gold coloured plated, and you've got blackened, little bit of a luminous into the guy rope points as well. You've got one thing you will say, because maybe New Zealand certainly is more of a slightly extremer climate that we have in the UK, in terms of the hotter summers and slightly colder winters. This tent is very well ventilated. It's probably Zempire makes some of the best ventilated tents on the market. So what you will see is every single panel pretty much on the tent has some sort of mesh or vent on it. So we'll have a look from start to back. So yeah, again, you've got these beautiful sort of triangular windows to allow plenty of light. Yet again, you've got a sort of tinted window which actually will reflect some of the heat, make it a bit cooler on the inside, but then the bottom part is a complete mesh panel as well. And yet again, joys of this is that you've got sort of curtains on the inside to allow and stop the ventilation if you want it to. So if it's slightly colder day, you don't have to worry about being sort of too cold by having too much circulation throughout the tent. Yet again, in a nice big window here, a great mesh panel down the bottom. Rain safe canopy door with a full mesh on it as well, which is really quite smart. Yet again, below low level ventilation down there, which really does tend to help. Moving forward, you can see the gull wing door we've got on the display here at the moment. So this is actually the door which will allow you to use it as a solid enclosure for the front. Alternatively, use the poles come supplied with it to create a big canopy. Means a bit more shelter for sitting underneath here. When it's zipped back, as you can see from our own Attwoolls pitching videos, you can see myself put this tent up in the best part of 13 minutes. With something for this big on my own, I think, you know, it's quite a decent sort of size. It doesn't matter if you're going away for a weekend or a week, you've got the flexibility, you can take something away this size, be comfortable, and if the weather does turn, you've got plenty of space to accommodate everyone inside of it. When the doors are down, you've got sort of little side entrances that happen here, so this point can sort of roll back and create a little sort of slipstream into the side. And that's the same with both sides. So if the weather does turn, you can either enter through the left or the right, just so you can actually sort of utilise it against the wind. So that's sort of an extra layer of versatility. But you've also got a second zip on top of here as well. As of yet, they've kind of future-proofed it. It's nothing they've really making at the moment that's going to go onto the top of there. There is talks about them making a polyester sort of sun canopy, just to give that extra sort of protection if you want to use the door as a door rather than this like gull-wing sort of sail. So that's another sort of thing you can look at. But let's have a look on the inside and look through some of the more unique features that this tent has to offer. So now we're inside the TXL, you can kind of see certainly the large sort of canopy area we've got at the front here. So with the ability of also making that enclosed, it makes a really nice sort of sheltered area. And there's a divisional door that can be opened up completely to have it as one open area in the whole side of the tent, which is nice. You've got a little hanging point for a lantern position on the front beam, as well as the ability, like I said, to roll that all the way back to have it as one full-on open sort of canopy. You've got zip-out curtains, zipper curtains throughout the whole of it. You've got little, obviously, like I said, PVC sort of windows to allow plenty of lighting, but with certainly the tinted element to it, it just means that you can get that extra level of privacy when you want to. The material they're using that is slightly different as well to your conventional tent, so what it also means is you have less sort of crinkles, and it tends to look a bit sharper and fall out of place a lot easier. The joys yet again is you've got an option of the tent to have it sort of ventilated, but also privacy at the same time. So you've got a two-stage zip on the side panels here, so you can actually give yourself some ventilation points if you wanted to, while still remaining privacy inside the tent as well. So you, again, see obviously you've got a little part there, so it allows airflow through the tent, but also the privacy you want to use. It doesn't have to compromise with, you know, having all the curtains done up, all the mesh done up, and still making it a nice sort of more comfortable environment to be in inside the tent itself. And yet again, you can just happily sort of have it down halfway if you wanted to, or roll it up. So I can just zip it down, put it halfway just to cover the mesh, and then still have that in position to allow some airflow. So you've got quite a lot of functionality there. The pump you get supplied with actually isn't your normal conventional pump either. It's a sort of reworked model, and something Zempire have created themselves. So you've got a really nice pressure gauge on top, and you've actually got dual settings, so you can use it as a double action hand pump to certainly thrust a lot of air in there to get the volume in, and then when you actually get sort of a slightly high resistance, or you start to fatigue, you've got a little switch located on the front of the pump, so that flips round, and then it's a single action. So just lets a little bit of air out, quite a clever design, but also just makes, you know, saving yourself that little bit of extra strain when putting it in, because I personally find it much easier to sort of put on downstroke rather than worry about going up and down when you're against a high resistance. You've got the 360 door, which leads you into sort of the main living area, and the reason it's called 360 is because it can basically zip out 360 degrees, store in a little storage pocket behind. So you've got a blank panel, a full blank panel and a full mesh panel, so you can sort of chop and change between the two, or have both in place. So what I've done really here is just leave the mesh panel in place to give sort of a bit more sort of bit more circulation of air, so that can just zip down, zip along the bottom. If I don't tree it carefully, there we go. And then just literally little pocket just stockings down here and keeps it kind of all neat and tidy. So it essentially is an 8 berth. So you've got 6 along the back and an extra 2 berth in the bedroom in the living area. So as always, you can pick to choose whether you'll have that up or down. And it's quite a generous 2 berth in there as well. And it's still made out of a nice sort of polycotton fabric. That way it just gives you, you know, a bit more comfortable area inside. And then for the daytime, I would probably just take that down, remove it, and utilise the living area you've got in here. Put all the bedding in the back with the rest of the stuff. Again, nice PVC windows on the sides, and then a really good little mesh panel below. You've got on the two side doors here, both with mesh, so you can have circulation, but you've got that brow rain safe canopy door on that left hand side. Moving into the bedroom area, obviously you see it's a nice dark inner, so it means that hopefully you shouldn't wake up at the crack of dawn, but plenty of headroom height throughout here, and actually throughout the tent, to be fair, due to the way the arches happens in the corner, just to try and give you as maximum amount of height as possible throughout the tent. Storage pockets situated on the inner tent itself help obviously declutter the tent and make the most use out of things as you possibly can. And it doesn't stop there. There's also the same pocket system is on the inside of the inners. So yet again, you can, while you're in the, say, the master bedroom in the middle, you can still, put things like books or keys quite happily, neatly, tidily, vertically upwards. In the sides, just a little storage pockets then move to the corners. So you've got a best part of 4 or 5 pockets there, just making it that much easier. And when we talk about the sort of level of detail that Zempire actually go into, you're talking about the things like the carpets clip into the actual main body. So that's a unique feature to them. Not anyone else at the moment does that in the marketplace. And it means that essentially when you walk onto it, it's not suddenly moving at all. It's fairly secured. It's on sort of elasticated webbing straps, and it just means that it sits nicely. And when the kids are running, flying in and out, it's not going to suddenly reeve up or curl up or become a massive trip hazard, as most people who've had them in previously kind of tend to know. You've also got things like little pre-stitched in Velcro tabs, so you can actually have lights hanging down quite happily, going down to cable entry points as well. So you've got sort of cable entry points on the side over there and another one over there, which allow you to have sort of the mains hook up inside a tent without having to leave the door open the whole time. Even things like cable entry points into bedrooms. So each individual bedroom has got its own cable entry point, and on the inside, a little clip to hang a lantern from. So it's things like that in every single bedroom point. It's like I said, it's kind of what Zempire are all about. It's those extra features that you didn't know you needed until you know about them, and then you do need them. But generally, really nice model. Oversized beams again in here. And like I said, it does help to give you a bit more rugged structure in the model itself. But overall, very impressive. Love the amount of mesh and the versatility in the actual tent as well. But generally, it's a model, like I said, we're looking to have in our 2020 showroom. So by all means, if you have any more questions or queries about Zempire or any questions about the brand as such, do feel free to let us know what you think. Like I said, everything I've talked about so far is the same with the 3 sizes in the polycotton range. And one last feature I have forgot actually, all of the tabs are glow in the dark. So all the zip pullers and things like that are glow in the dark. Yeah, again, it just means that making it in the pitch black at night, you can still find your way out and know where you're going. But there's so many different things that you sort of forget because they do really ram tons of features into it. But yeah, that's essentially our little video review on the Zempire Pro TC series with the TXL, the TL, and then also the TM.